Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for all those who joined us. In the end, a disappointing 2-1 defeat at home to Crystal Palace. Scott Parker in his press conference beforehand described this as a must-win game, and I always think you've got problems if so early in the season you're describing games as must-win. But we're going to try and chew the fat and try and get to the bottom of what went wrong and maybe try and pick out some positives as well. So I'm joined by George Singer.
Hello, mate.
And Dara Curran.
What is the crack?
Yeah, how are we doing? Apart from the defeat, obviously, we all good otherwise?
Yeah.
Yeah, all good. I mean, how are we meant to spin like a miserable 90 minutes in some positivity? I don't know.
I mean, it did start very positively after what I thought was an incredibly exciting lineup. I can't remember the last time I looked at a Fulham lineup. I thought, oh, right, here we go. I had a bit of a spring in my step thinking, could this be our day? And the opening spell of possession, it looked like we maybe were going to get something. So, Dara, we started pretty well, I thought. Didn't you think?
Yeah, I thought we did really well to begin with. But that being said, Palace kind of sat back off us. I don't know whether that was just them allowing us to have the possession and just kind of countering us. Or where I saw it anyway going wrong was the fullbacks were really, really high. And that ball just came in, it was coming into Zaha down the right, or our right. And that seemed to be where our weakness was. Like Zaha he had a really good game. And I think most of our good play came down the left. Most of their good play came down the left. And that was where their weaknesses was. And that's where our weakness was. And Zaha just did it for them, unfortunately.
Yeah,
we saw last season when we went 1-0 up, we tended to do well. When we went 1-0 down and we're chasing the game, we didn't tend to do too well. And one of my mates, who's a Palace fan, I was talking to him before the game, he said, an early goal will kill the game. And that's exactly what happened.
It's very much the case of same old story for Fulham, really, isn't it? We had sort of lion's share of possession, not really doing much with it. You go down, and then, as you know, with this Scott Parker side, we find it very, very hard to come back. And as you said, Zaha, I mean, if ever you needed a sobering reminder of the quality of this league, that no-look pass for the goal, it was a bit of a mismatch between Aaron and Zaha today, wasn't it, George?
It was. I think I was, to be honest, I lost count of the amount of times that Zaha skinned the poor guy. I mean, it was at least 3 or 4 times, a bit of pace and got him behind the guy. I think for me, it's a great, it's a great show from Palace of like how to be ruthlessly efficient in the Premier League. They had a lot less of the ball than us. They had a lot less shots, but they were just creating such better passes and such better opportunities. I think with Riedewald, it was a lovely little run from him, kind of across the defence, and our guys completely switched off. And I think Zaha is a lovely pass to him. It was him who made the assist, right? That kind of no-look pass to Riedewald.
Sort of Ronaldinho-esque, wasn't it?
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. I would have enjoyed it if it wasn't against Fulham. But yeah, it just time and time again, like they showed how to be efficient on the ball and how to create good chances, and that's the exact opposite of what we did. Our play was slow. We created so little compared to how much we had the ball, and Zaha was really at his best. Showing us how to do it in the Premier League.
Exactly. And so in terms of the goal, it was a good finish in the end. Fantastic ball. I think we all agree that the ball from Zaha made it. Is there anything that we could have done defensively to prevent that, do you think, Dara?
Like a lot of our goals this season, it's been tracking the runner, really. That I think that we 2 or 3 times already this season, that's what's happened. We just haven't tracked the runs. I mean, what can you do? I think might have been Tim Ream was one of the deepest defenders whom we could have been playing a high line. I can't quite recall, but definitely there was one of our defenders who was a lot deeper than the rest, which could have played him on. But I mean, like, who's picking up Riedewald? Come on, like this is basics. This is the simple stuff that we should really be doing. And
I think it looked like Cairney
for all the good work, for all the good work and how well we looked in the opening 15 minutes, I'd say. Even when we conceded, we looked good going forward after that. I don't know, it's just silly mistakes. And to be honest, I'm kind of more worried about us like from the final third onwards than I am defensively. We just seem to be not creating enough. So I think the defense will come together. We'll get a few boys back, Tete, and I think we could safely say from what we've seen so far that Tete would be first choice right back over Aina. I think we just seem to not be able to create the chances going forward. That's what I don't know where the goals are going to come from. There's one or two bright sparks, but it just doesn't look like it's clicking.
It is a worry. And talking about those bright sparks, let's try and pick out some positives from this performance. Lookman, again, with another, especially first half, I thought, inspired, positive, aggressive is exactly what we need at the end of the day. George, how did you think he did?
He was brilliant, wasn't he? I thought in all areas of the game, sorry, he was fantastic. He was the only player who offered any sort of direct running on the ball. The ball sticks to his feet, and I think he's got a great skill of, he can take a player on, and even if it's, kind of the ball bobbles about a bit, he always seems to be the first one to get there. It's great anticipation from the guy. Had a great few shots, hit the post. Potentially, he clearly wants, scoring last time out, he wants to score again. So, yeah, I don't know, clutching at straws maybe if he was a little bit selfish with some of his shots, but that will come the more time he spends with the team. And in defence as well, like he was so feisty in the tackle. He really wanted to get the ball back, and there are a few times similar, I thought, to Townsend, who did an equally good job on in the Palace shirt of really being strong on the tackle and breaking up play high up the pitch. And yeah, I mean, if we had 11 Lookmans on the pitch, okay, we might concede. We'll probably concede a few, but in attack, there's no one else really who's offering that direct kind of dynamism. It's all falling on his shoulders at the moment, which I don't know. Obviously, it's great to see him playing so well, but compared to the rest of the team, he definitely stands out.
Absolutely, and I mean, you spoke about his chance where he fizzed the ball across goal and hit the post. Mitrovic not being able to react quite quick enough to put it in the back of the net. And I mean, to me, he seems like a man who's a bit low on confidence at the moment, which is worrying when you're in the position that we're in. We need those leaders and goal scorers to pitch up. Dara, does this look like a cause for concern to you, do you think? Or do you think he'll get back into his scoring habits and set himself on fire again?
I think Mitrovic is world class. I think given the time, like, he's been away on international duty. He's played a lot of games over a short space of time. So I think one game a week and a little bit of rest in between and more time to understand the players that are around him. Like, we've got Loftus-Cheek and Lookman, who are players he hasn't really played with all that much. So I think a little bit of time to gel, a little bit more understanding between the players who are around him and of each other. And I think we should start seeing goals from Mitrovic. Like, class is permanent. I don't think he'll just go on a dry route or a dry run of form or anything like that. So I think the goals will come. Obviously, we've got some tough games coming up in December, but Mitrovic he's a class above. We just need to provide him with the opportunities. He didn't get too much today. Like, obviously, he plays that one over the bar, but I think we'll be all right in terms of goals from him. It's the creation of chances and pitching in from other areas of the pitch. Like, we can't be relying on him week in, week out. I don't want to see, like, keep calm and cross it into Mitrovic all the time.
No, it's very true. And you talk about we need other players to step up, that we need that creative outlet going forward. We've obviously mentioned Lookman. He had a fantastic game. I want to talk about Ruben Loftus-Cheek, because we all saw that post that he put out midweek of him absolutely skinning Joe Bryan and Hector. I'm sure they were both chuffed about that. But you kind of think, all right, well, you can see it doing against our own boys. Let's see if you can turn this into, practice what you preach when it really matters. What did you think of his performance overall, George? I thought that it started positively, but then kind of wandered into kind of no man's land for a bit.
So during the game, obviously, I knew that I was doing this, so I on the other half of my screen at the moment, I've got like a list of notes, and for each player, like I did the lineup, wrote some notes, for each player, what I think they did well and what I think they did badly. Every player's got like 2 or 3 lines. Ina's just got a whole paragraph of me ranting at him. And Loftus-Cheek, there's just a dash and absolutely nothing. Like I don't remember him doing anything. Like I was really trying to kind of watch him, see what he was adding to the game. I think he struggled in a little bit in the role where he was playing. He wasn't deep enough until the subs and he got moved around. He wasn't deep enough to really be in that build-up play. Ina was offering all the width down the side, so he wasn't getting involved in that kind of play. And anytime we did get the ball forward, it just went straight to Mitrovic. So whilst I could maybe say like he was a good decoy and maybe he took the attention of a few of the Palace defenders, he did so little. So yeah, I think part of it you've got to put on maybe us struggling to get him the ball, but I would have liked to have seen a bit more from him, especially as for the majority of the game we were a goal down and needed him to create a bit of a spark. I was pretty disappointed by him. I wouldn't say it's necessarily anything to be too worried about, and look, it's a single game, and I'm sure he will come good. But yeah, I've really got nothing to say about him because he barely did anything at all.
I know it's a bit frustrating because we obviously know he's a player of immense quality, and we saw when he had his loan spell at Crystal Palace what he's capable of. And I think it's just a case of gelling with the team and getting that spark back. But I mean, the commentators are on the stream. I'm sure. Did you guys pay £15 for your stream? No.
No.
The commentators were saying that he's got a point to prove, and I think that's something that is unanimous across our squad. We've got these players like Lookman and Ruben Loftus-Cheek that have a point to prove and want to be sort of making a sort of state on the game on a global scale. So I think he's a consummate professional, and there's so much potential there. He just needs to start firing all full cylinders. Did you have something to say, Drew?
It's one thing that I liked about a lot of our signings was that they all tended to have a point to prove. A lot of them, like Ruben Loftus-Cheek, he was looking to get back into the England squad. Adebayor was at one stage tipped to be a replacement for Company. We had Lookman, who went off to Leipzig for a big fee, didn't quite cut it. All these players seem to have like some point to prove. What I would say about Loftus-Cheek, he was playing a little bit out of position. That might be something that you could give him just on this one game. Like for Palace, when he played with them, he played it in a 4-4-2 on the right, on the left rather than on the right. So it might have been an unfamiliar position with him. The only thing was when you looked at the likes of Lookman and Anthony Robertson, they seem to be like almost demanding the ball or looking for the ball more, whereas Loftus-Cheek was cutting inside a little bit to allow space for Ina to go, but he wasn't like demanding the ball at any stages. And the game seemed to just pass him by a little bit.
I'd have to agree. Well, Scott did make a valiant effort to try and shake things up a little bit, and one of the substitutes came on for Anguissa was Kamara, and that ended in typical Abubakar Kamara style with a red card. And I think my opinion is with this tackle, if there's no VAR, it's not a red card. It's a yellow card. It didn't look malicious to me. It just looked like a very clumsy, stupid, bad challenge. There was no malice. There was no. But when you slow it down and analyze it under that sort of close scrutiny of VAR, it transforms it and makes it look malicious and makes it look intentional. George, what did you think? Did you think it was a little bit harsh as well?
I think before the tackle, just on him coming on and being subbed on for Zambo, that was a weird sub, right? I mean, I know you're not his biggest fan, Zambo, are you, Coops? But I thought, he was one of the few players that actually carried the ball forward. And I think he was kind of stumped by the lack of runners in front of him. But like he was kind of one of the few people who seemed to unlock the defence. So I was a bit surprised of all the people to take off Zambo. Abu. He's unpredictable, right? And sometimes, at the best of it, we see him absolutely tear defenders apart, and against a slow and aging Palace defence, it did make sense to bring him on, right? But he does have this clumsy nature to him, and I think you're absolutely right. There's no real malicious intent there. It was just Abu kind of chasing after a ball and being a bit clumsy. I think when the slow motion makes it look a lot worse than it is, right? I think when we all first saw it in real time, it just looks like a badly timed challenge. And certainly, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't see the studs being up until the VAR slowed it right down. I mean, it's one of those. It's disappointing as a Fulham fan, because in this scenario, in real time, a few years ago, that would just be a yellow. But I can't complain. Like it was a red card. You tackle with your studs up like that, and you dig your studs into the Achilles of someone, like you're going to get sent off. So yeah, look, it's disappointing, but luckily at the time we were 2-0 down, and I'd kind of given up hope anyway. Otherwise, I'd if it was 0-0 or we had a chance of getting in it, I'd be pretty furious at the guy. But yeah, really, all hope had gone by that point. So you just kind of sit back and laugh a bit, don't you?
I can definitely concur with that feeling of just, what's the point? It was utter disdain by that point. Just like, this game's run away from us. By the way, gents, ladies and gents, we are live. So if you want to tap in your questions, we'll cover as many as we can. We haven't actually touched upon the Cairney goal yet. Just as I was saying, the disdain, the dismay that was coming over us, out of nowhere, Tom Cairney showing us what he's capable of all along, sticking it in top bins at the death of the game. It's somewhat frustrating that couldn't have come a bit sooner. Do you not think, Dara?
It's classic Tom Cairney. Left foot, top bins, from outside the box. That's what he does. I mean, if that was at 1-1 early in the second half, great. We might have given us a bit of an impetus to go on and get something from the game, get the 3 points. But just at the point of the game that it was merely consolation, especially in like 95th minute or whatever it was. I don't know. Even at that, like it's a really well taken goal, but you can't say it was a big chance or anything like that. It was like just a really well taken goal from the edge of the box. It was such a weird game. I really just, for all the good things that we did. I think we just played into Palace's hands. Like we knew that they were going to sit back and try to counter us, and that's exactly what they did. They just picked us apart, and like for all the possession, we just didn't make it count. We didn't spread it wide enough. We didn't get balls into the box. I don't know.
And am I right in thinking that you had to request special permission from your girlfriend in order to watch the game this afternoon? So I
absolutely
apologise on behalf of Fulham for disappointing.
Well, usually I work on Saturdays because I'm a bar manager and I've just got a new puppy. So the days that I have to take off are the days that my girlfriend works, which are weekdays. Happened to have Saturday off this time. I was like, right, let's just get the permission slip in. Let's get it out of the way. Let's get that out of the way, just in case she starts to get any ideas that we're doing something.
Good man.
I was like, football's on. That's it. It's happening. That's it. You can just get out of the house, go do some shopping.
All right, good stuff. Right, so we're going to go to some questions now. So if tech will allow me to do this, there we go. So we've got from Suhail. Cairney needs to try and play much more progressive passing, defence splitters instead of sideways. Now it's something that we've touched upon, and I don't want to become too sort of Cairney bashing because I know we got a bit of flack in our very own Marco's article, which ruffled a few feathers across the Fulham fan base. However, I do particularly agree with this. I think that he's too often not played to his strengths. But I guess the argument here is whether he has the Premier League quality that if he is placed in his opportune position, which I think is number 10, and sort of drifting in and out of the hole and trying to make those killer progressive forward passes. Do you think it's a gamble that is, or something that Scott should consider? And do you think he has the quality in order to deliver at this level, George?
I think we certainly saw this today, and I think it was really interesting if you kind of compare the first half and the second half of. I absolutely agree. In the first half, compared to Zambo, who was a lot more progressive, TC did a lot more. It was that kind of ball retention and sideways and backwards passes, and certainly I got the impression that Scott got that message across at half time, because at the start of the second half, TC was a lot more direct, was pushing forward, and was his link-up play for the kind of first 10, 15 minutes or so of the first half, I thought was pretty good. I guess my concern here is that, honestly, I have the impression I get is that his skills are starting to decline. Perhaps the age is catching up with him a little bit. I know not everyone's going to agree with me there, but that's the impression I'm starting to get. And he, aside from his goal, which a moment of magic, he did really struggle to unlock the Palace defence, and they sit deep, right? They sat very deep, 2 banks of 4. Like we all know it, we all love it from our days with Roy managing us, but. Like if you can't break down a deep side like Palace at home, there's not going to be any easier opportunities than this for Tom Cairney. Like this is his best opportunity to really take the game by the scruff of the neck, play through balls, create in front of him. And I think, to be honest, he kind of struggled to do that. I'm not going to put all the blame on him. I think a fair chunk of the blame has to go to the lack of attacking plan. Certainly, whenever he got the ball, he was faced with kind of 3 or 4 attacking players in front of him, just looking back at him and maybe not offering the same runs that Riedewald did in the first half. So, it takes 2 to tango here. Some of that goes on Cairney for me, and I'm not sure whether he has the quality to do it in the Premier League. Like, hopefully I'm proved wrong, but I'm not sure. And also, I think the other half has got to go to the attacking coaches of getting the players to make the runs, create the space for him to pass into. So, yeah, I think probably half on Cairney and half on the lack of support from the rest of the attack.
I think that's a very valid point, and the emphasis is on both. You can be the most creative player in the world, but if nobody's making the runs and not giving you the options, then you're gonna go sort of sort of appreciated. So we're going to go for another question from Richard Meller. So Brian for Robinson would have been good. Brian has a better delivery. Do you think that the lack of that sort of like killer pass and in terms of crossing was to our detriment today, Dara?
I mean, a lot of our best play did tend to come down the left. I think Robinson had more crosses than anybody for us. I just don't remember Mitrovic having too many efforts. So obviously he wasn't quite hitting his mark. And when I looked at it at certain points, Mitrovic, they weren't marking him with 2 defenders. There was only 1 defender who tended to be on Mitrovic. So I think possibly with better delivery, we could have had more from Mitrovic. I know he did have 1 really good chance, a good header which he put over, but I can't really remember too much. I think Robinson had 11 crosses in the game, so I don't remember too many of them hitting their mark, honestly. But I mean, I don't think against a team like Palace, they're so compact, as George said, with the 2 banks of 4, that you really need to switch it wide and work them in that areas. And I don't think we did enough. Obviously, Anya was on the right. Some good things came through him, not a lot. But we didn't do enough in the wide areas for me to stretch the defense and to pull them apart and create chances. So possibly Brian. I think Robinson in the 2 previous games had done enough to justify his place. Whether Brian coming on would have freshened things up and give us something different. He obviously, from last season, his 6 assists for Mitrovic, there's obviously a little bit of a connection that he's able to find him in the box. I don't know whether that would have been enough on the day. We just seemed to be a bit blunt in attack. We just didn't seem to be able to break down that team. I think the early goal, it was always going to be difficult. They were just going to sit in that lead. So we really needed to do something extra to break down that defence.
I think on top of that, I think the point you made earlier, Dara, of we don't want it to keep calm and cross to Mitrovic. It does for me seem that this is plan A, and I'm not really sure whether it should be plan A. Like I get the concept that Mitrovic is a good player in the air, and certainly against Championship defenders, that's a huge advantage because in 50-50s, the
Are we back?
there we go. Yeah. In 50-50s, Mitro can win them a lot more in the Championship. The issue is in the Premier League, you're going up against far more experienced, bigger, stronger centre backs.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get that same advantage. And also, kind of by definition, like crosses, they're quite.
Yeah, you don't score as often from them. So
don't score as
lower
often.
Quality.
They're lower. Yeah, absolutely.
I think lastly, like Mitrovic got 6 goals from headers last season. So obviously the rest of them, they were either from like through ball. Well, we didn't make a lot of through balls, so they were obviously just low crosses or low like ground balls. I don't understand why we're from the start of the season. It looks to me like we're just trying to just whip it in all the time, and I don't think that's the way to go. That's just not for me. If you look back, I hate looking back to Jukanovic's time, but when you look the year that we got promoted, it was all like intricate play in and around the box, little 1-2s, ground balls, cutbacks, and that's what I'd like to see from us rather than these balls whipped into the box. I think they're just far superior quality chances, and we'll do much better for it if that's what we do. We've got players who have a little bit of they're good dribbling quality, and they can beat a man and they can cut the ball back to someone that's running onto it. And I think we just need to get a few more bodies into the box, and we'll create more chances and score the goals.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Dara, when you say people in the box. You look at them, we're putting in these Hail Mary balls, trying to find Mitrovic.
To 2 or 3 people in the box.
You're the only person there. And when you look in contrast, Crystal Palace, when they were going forwards, they had 3-4 players all there in goal scoring positions. And I think it's a real hallmark of, our team at the moment is just that lack of attacking positioning and awareness that really does cost us ultimately. Let's move. I just wanted to bring on at this point. So, what was Areola doing for the second goal? He barely dived half a foot, and he could have just ran out and booted it. So we've had a few people in the comment section who have been a bit critical of Areola's performance today. A few people saying should we start Rodak instead? What did you think overall of his performance? Do you think that? Personally, I think it'd be a little bit harsh to pin the sort of second goal on him, but do you think that he was as accomplished as he has been in previous games, George?
I'm surprised to read that comment. Certainly from at least the angles that I saw on my stream, it didn't necessarily feel that way to me. He dived and my official definitely paid £15. I certainly didn't feel he was necessarily to blame for the second goal. I'm not sure from my viewpoint. It looked like he dived, but in reality, it was kind of that perfect cross that Batshuayi made. So I wouldn't put too much blame from him on that. If anything, the first goal, it felt to me like the pass and the run caught everyone unawares, defenders and goalkeeper included. So, perhaps if if he'd got his eye in a little bit and reacted a little bit sharper, he could have got a hand to that. But no, I don't think there's too much to be blamed on him. Like he didn't have an awful lot to do. He didn't really face that many chances. So no, I mean honestly, if you swapped out Rodak for Areola there, the result is going to be the same. And I think across the season, Areola is probably going to give us a better opportunity of staying up. He's more likely to make better saves because he is a better keeper. Like he's played for PSG and Real Madrid, and Marek Rodak's played for Rotherham and Fulham. Like, as I love Rodak as much as the next guy, but let's be a bit objective here, right? We've got a great keeper here. As much as I'd love Rodak to be Fulham's number one, I think at this point Areola is a technically better keeper. If we stick with him throughout the season and get embedded in, he's more likely to keep us up, which, you know, I'd rather be kind of brutal and objective and stay up than be nice and be sentimental and go back down. So
yes,
yeah, that's my take on it.
No place of sentimentality in Fulham, I think you'll agree. So Scott Parker said in his pre-match press conference that moving from the Championship to the Premier League is like moving up from GCSE maths to A-level maths. And I think today was a particularly tough Pythagoras exam. So he also described today as a must-win game. If this was a must-win, then our next match against West Brom surely is potentially a season clincher. So just looking at the lineup, do you think we start with the same team that we did today, or would you?
Oh, has George dropped there?
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. I think we know what he was going to ask if you want to go.
I wasn't convinced by Ruben. Sorry, George, you're back with us. You were just going to say, would you stick with the same lineup, was it?
Yes, that's the one. Sorry.
For me, I wasn't convinced by Ruben Loftus-Cheek on the right today. That I'd probably put him somewhere more centrally if that was just being me. But obviously, we don't have Kamara for the right. That's an option that's gone. There seems to be a bit of a reluctance to move Lookman to the right. Maybe that's justified. We don't know because we haven't seen him there. I don't know who can play on the right. That just seems to be our weak link. Like why we didn't sign somebody for that right flank, like a Josh King, who we were linked with for so long, or someone of that ilk. That just to me seems the area that I don't know what solves that issue on that right side. Judging on today's, it doesn't look like Ruben Loftus-Cheek, but that'd be the only area really, unless somebody kind of makes a Lazarus recovery from injury, then maybe Tete at right back or somebody at centre back is the only really change that I see in that side. I don't see too many people coming in. I thought Lamina did quite well. Maybe Reed would come in if he's fully fit. But there's not too much. There's not much wiggle room, I think, to maneuver there. I just don't know who's going to play on the right side. That's my real question. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think we just got to put our faith in Ruben Loftus-Cheek. We've got a player of quality there, and we just got to hope that he, starts hitting a bit of form. I think it's just waiting for us to click and gel. And Fulham always start the season slowly. For as long as I can remember, since I've started following the club, the first half of our season is always, never up standard. After Christmas, when you have that round, that's when things hopefully start clicking. But we're running out of time, and you hope that we can get some points on the board for our next game. But anyway, we've rambled on for long enough. We're going to let these lovely people get on with their Saturday evenings. But thank you very much, everyone who's joined us. I've been George Cooper. I've been joined by George Singer.
Thanks, mate.
And Dara Curran.
Always a pleasure to speak about Fulham.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time, gents, and hope you've enjoyed. If you've got any more comments, then just chuck us a line on Twitter or Instagram, and there'll be a podcast out very shortly. So I hope you all have a good Saturday, and let's hope for 3 points against West Brom. Yeah.
You Whites.
You Whites.